The NFL season has arrived, guys. I cannot wait to kick this live stream off. I'll be live for minimum the next hour. The NFL season is here, and what a game to kick it off with. We've got the Detroit Lions going into Kansas City against the Kansas City Chiefs, the highest projected scoring game of week one, maybe one of the higher scoring games of the entire season, at least in terms of projecting it ahead of time. What a week one opener we got this season. It's going to be a treat. And it's a really interesting one from a fantasy perspective. And of course, we're going to get to the start sits, the Thursday nights. But guys, the NFL season is back. Fantasy football is back. Pumped to see everyone in the YouTube live. We're live on TikTok and YouTube per usual. We will get to some of the start sit questions in the chat tonight. As always, as in years past, I will do my best to prioritize the start sits that have to do with Thursday night. Because guess what? I'll be live all Sunday morning, basically from when I wake up around 8:30, 9 a.m., right through till kickoff. So we'll get to those start sits on Sunday morning, and there's going to be more news that comes out that helps with those Sunday morning questions. So I want to try to prioritize the Thursday night ones. And we're going to talk about David Montgomery, one of my most drafted players in all of my own personal fantasy football drafts, in my best ball drafts. And David Montgomery is a must-start player tonight in almost all situations. Like, I don't actually think it's that crazy to start David Montgomery over Joe Mixon. I assume most projections out there will have Mixon ahead of Montgomery. You probably drafted Mixon ahead of Montgomery, but David Montgomery lands on my must-start list tonight. Guys, this game has the highest over-under of the week. What we know is that David Montgomery is expected to step into the Jamal Williams role that led to 17 rushing touchdowns last season. On top of that, David Montgomery has been a much more efficient runner than Jamal Williams in the NFL behind a worse offensive line. This is by far the best offensive line David Montgomery has ever ran behind. The Lions have a top 5 offensive line in the NFL. It might be top 3. It might even be number 1. The offensive line is the core strength of the Lions team. This is part of the reason the over-under of this game is so high. It's part of the reason I'm very in on David Montgomery. I think both Jahmyr Gibbs and Monty are auto starts tonight. I mean, this is the exact type of game environment you want for both these guys. I'm starting David Montgomery. He can catch passes in PPR leagues, but he also just has some of the highest touchdown upside in the NFL. Guys, we are live on TikTok. We are live on YouTube. Make sure you smash the like button no matter where you're watching. If you are watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. It is a little bit better of a viewing experience, I promise you, and it's more likely I can answer your comment and pull your comment up on screen. But shout out to everyone in this live right now. We'll be live leading up to this game tonight, at least the next hour or so. So the must-start players for me, obviously, Mahomes, you got to start. We'll talk a little bit about him, but not much to discuss there from fantasy. Amon-Ra, he has legit number 1 overall wide receiver upside in fantasy football this season. And I think you can really argue he's the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy this week. Heading into week 1, again, just an ideal game environment for Amon-Ra, the highest projected scoring game of the week. And there's no Jameson Williams. The Lions have nothing outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown at receiver. Sam Laporta is maybe their second best receiving threat. And then along with Jahmyr Gibbs, who's expected to play a pretty big receiving role. We've gotten some conflicting Jahmyr Gibbs coach speak, general manager speak over the past week. Gotta love to see the ping-ponging there where the general manager says Jahmyr Gibbs might be used in unexpected ways and leaves people guessing what that means. Later, we found out maybe that means he's literally going to be their deep threat wide receiver. Then earlier this week, we have head coach Dan Campbell say, we're actually going to ease Jahmyr Gibbs in. Clearly, they're both, I think, telegraphing a little bit too much here. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have a big role in this offense. He's going to catch a lot of passes. He's going to get a lot of targets, and he's going to have the big play threat ability in this offense. Guys, Jahmyr Gibbs, my comp for Jahmyr Gibbs coming out of the NFL draft was Chris Johnson, but a better receiver than Chris Johnson was. And that's a really exciting running back that you're going to want to watch every single game of. If you guys are old enough to remember Chris Johnson in his 2,000-yard rushing season, the speed from Chris Johnson is really not something we've seen in the NFL for quite some time. That's the speed that Jahmyr Gibbs has. Plus, he is a really, really talented receiving back. 97th percentile college target share from Jahmyr Gibbs. That is better than Bijan Robinson. I thought the juxtaposition between Gibbs and Bijan this entire draft season was really interesting. Bijan was an auto first round pick in every fantasy draft. Meanwhile, Gibbs sliding to the mid third round, elite third round in a lot of drafts. I took him early third round in a few of my drafts. So I'm excited about him tonight as well. But yeah, you're starting Gibbs, you're starting Montgomery, you're starting Amon-Ra, you're starting Mahomes. But it's weird. This game is projected to be really high scoring. These are the only 4 players I think you absolutely need to start tonight. There's a couple other fringe starts, though, that I want to touch on, too. And then I'll get to some of the comments here in just a second and then give my thoughts on what I expect in the game. So Sky Moore, absolutely. You can consider starting him. So the fringe start guys, I don't think you need to shove these guys into your lineup. If you have other guys that you drafted ahead of these guys, which you probably do, you don't need to force it. I know you kind of want to feel something tonight, but trust me, Sunday's coming sooner than you think. You don't need to force Sky Moore into your lineup. But I don't hate him either. He has a decent floor tonight, and he should be the most used Chiefs receiver to start the season. He's taking over the Juju role. There's no Kelsey tonight. Sky Moore should occupy the middle of the field for the Chiefs, and he's catching passes from Patrick Mahomes. That's all good things for Sky Moore, but I don't think his touchdown ceiling is so insanely high with the amount of receivers that the Chiefs will throw to. 7 receivers could realistically catch a pass for the Chiefs tonight, plus 3 running backs. Like, it wouldn't be surprising to see 10 different Chiefs catch a pass tonight. So I'd say the floor is a little bit lower, maybe for Sky Moore than you would want in your starting lineup in week 1. But I also don't hate him because he should be the most used receiver for the Chiefs. Isaiah Pacheco, this is a high-scoring game. I'm not sure how many passes Isaiah Pacheco is going to catch, maybe a tiny bit more with Travis Kelce. But I also expect Clyde Edwards-Helaire to be involved and Jerick McKinnon, who's another fringe start for me. I'm not going to start Clyde, but also I would not put it past Clyde Edwards-Helaire to vulture a rushing touchdown away from Isaiah Pacheco. I did not draft Pacheco in any leagues. I think he's going to be pretty touchdown dependent, a little bit hard to trust in a rotating backfield is what I expect. I don't want to start him tonight, but you could do worse than Isaiah Pacheco in, again, the highest projected scoring game of the week. Pretty similar story with Jerick McKinnon. He should be the primary pass down back like he was last season. So he's a fringe start in PPR leagues, but I wouldn't feel great starting him. Jared Goff's not the worst option tonight either. He should, again, be a part of a high-scoring game. His over-under for passing touchdowns is 1.5. I think I would take the under there, but you could do much worse. Again, at the quarterback position, you want guys in high-scoring games. Then Sam Laporta, he's a rookie tight end, so I generally would advise against starting rookie tight ends in this game. I think you can at least consider it if you had Travis Kelce. I would look for Luke Musgrave on the waiver wire. I like that rookie tight end more than Sam Laporta, Christian Watson, and Romeo Doubs, both dealing with hamstring injuries. Luke Musgrave could be a top 10 tight end in week 1. I don't hate him at all. I also think Tyler Higbee, if you can stack him on the waiver wire, he probably got drafted, but he's looking like a top 5 tight end potentially too with Cooper Kupp out. I would not start Noah Gray. Guys, don't overthink this one. Noah Gray is not a one-for-one replacement for Travis Kelce. Could Noah Gray score a touchdown tonight? Sure, he could. But could he also score 0 fantasy points tonight? Absolutely. And that's what we're trying to avoid at all costs in the tight end position. Do not start Noah Gray tonight. All these receivers for the Chiefs, you can say the exact same thing about. Could any of them go for 80 yards and a touchdown? Yeah, sure. I would say that's possible for pretty much any of the Chiefs receivers tonight. Some of them I don't even have up on the screen, but don't start them. I mean, all of them could score 0 points. It's going to be a rotating receiver group outside of Sky Moore. Don't start Richie James. Don't start Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Don't start Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Don't start Marvin Jones or Josh Reynolds either. I feel like you could talk yourselves into those guys tonight as, starting wide receivers for the Lions in a high-scoring game. Don't do it. They both have a floor of 0 points. None of these guys can be trusted. And then, of course, make sure you get Travis Kelce out of your lineups. It sounds like Kelce avoided a long-term injury. That's great news. You're just not going to have him for week 1. You still get the biggest positional advantage in all fantasy football. So all things considered, you'll take that. You'll take that. It could have been much worse, and it will be much worse for some players this season. Travis Kelce can absolutely still win fantasy leagues. Okay. Let's get to some of the comments in the live now, and then I'll talk about my expectations China for the outcome of the game and the spread, and my favorite player props coming soon as well. All right, I have Kelce. Do I play Higbee or someone else you like? Play Higbee. If you have Tyler Higbee, play Tyler Higbee. Guys, Tyler Higbee could easily get 10-plus targets this week, and you really cannot say that about many tight ends. Maybe there's 3 tight ends that you could say that about. So, yeah, I'm absolutely starting Higbee, and I'm not looking at the waiver wire. If I am looking at the waiver wire, though, and I have Travis Kelce, look for Luke Musgrave. Look for Luke Musgrave. Don't start Noah Gray. I would start Gerald Everett over Noah Gray. I would start pretty much I could rattle off 12 tight ends that are going to be on your waiver wire that I would start over Noah Gray. Don't start Noah Gray. Sam, so great to have another year of fantasy. I got Gibbs. Give me your predictions for him. Yeah, so I'm all in on Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm actually more in on David Montgomery than I am on Jahmyr Gibbs. And really the reason for that was just the cost to acquire David Montgomery was so much lower than Jahmyr Gibbs in drafts. So that's why I have more David Montgomery, because I think there's going to be a two-headed backfield here. But I think you're going to see Gibbs and Montgomery on the field together a decent amount over the course of the season. I think Gibbs has a real shot to finish top 3 in the NFL among running backs in targets this year. He was a 97th percentile receiving back in college. He has 99th percentile speed. This is the exact type of archetype of player that I want on my fantasy teams. And this is the perfect game for him in week 1. I don't believe Dan Campbell when they say they're going to ease him in. I still think he gets around 15 touches tonight, and those are going to be high value touches, targets, red zone touches. So yeah, I like him a lot. And I think he can be a league winner in fantasy football. And again, the reason overall that I like both David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, not just the players who are both profiles pretty efficient running backs. David Montgomery's been really efficient behind one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL over the past few years in the Chicago Bears. He now steps into an amazing situation. Guys, the Lions backfield led the NFL in running back fantasy points last season. This offensive line is arguably the best offensive line in the NFL. I would put them and the Seahawks right near the top of the NFL. That's why I really like Zach Charbonnet this offseason too. But yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, they're going to get targets. They're going to get red zone touches. I'm very in on both. Okay, this is a really interesting one that I think is going to be difficult for me here, because Rachaad White is a guy that I want to start this week too. And again, I'm going to try to get to as many of these start-sit questions as I can. It's a little bit more likely I can get to your start-sit question if you put it in the YouTube live. Again, link to the YouTube live is right in the TikTok bio if you are watching live on TikTok. Rachaad White, I would probably start over Monty if this is a PPR league. I think Rachaad White has a real shot at 5+ catches this week in a good game script against the Vikings. The Vikings are a good matchup for opposing offenses. The Vikings have a bottom defense in the NFL. I think Rachaad White is going to get close to 20 touches in week 1. That's what the narrative has been from their coaching staff all offseason. We know Rachaad White is a good receiving back. So yeah, I'm in on Rachaad White. I would probably start him over Dave Montgomery. That's pretty close though. Definitely pretty close. Okay. David Njoku or Noah Gray. Okay, like we got to get this out in the open, guys. Don't start Noah Gray. Like every single tight end I'm going to see next to or Noah Gray tonight, I'm not going to choose Noah Gray. It's not a 1-for-1. Noah Gray to Travis Kelce, it is not a 1-for-1 situation. Noah Gray could legitimately score 0 points. I would not be that surprised. Could he also have potential at a big game? Sure. He's out there with Patrick Mahomes. You could say that about basically every single player on the Chiefs offense, but almost every single player outside of Sky Moore, Isaiah Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon, almost all those other guys could score as close to 0 points and it just wouldn't be that shocking because they're going to spread the ball around a lot. So yeah, I'm out on Noah Gray. David Njoku is a great option. Tyler Higbee's a great option. Luke Musgrave's on the waiver wire in a bunch of leagues. He's a fantastic option. He's a rookie tight end for Green Bay. Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson are both questionable this week. Both aren't practicing. Romeo Doubs actually got a limited practice in today. Christian Watson did not. Both hamstring injuries. Sky Moore instead of Zach Charbonnet or Michael Pittman. I would play Sky Moore over Zach Charbonnet. Charbonnet, I think actually is how you pronounce it. I'm not starting Zach Charbonnet in week 1. I actually think it's Zach Charbonnet. I actually Googled this. It's Zach Charbonnet. I'm trying to get better at the pronunciations, guys. Zach Charbonnet, I'm not starting over Sky Moore. Michael Pittman Jr., though, I'm probably starting him over Sky Moore. I think I am. Michael Pittman is the clear number 1 option for the Colts. I say Sky Moore is safer than Michael Pittman. Sky Moore is going to be the number 1 receiver for Patrick Mahomes tonight. But there's going to be a lot of receivers playing. I would say the upside for Michael Pittman is higher. There's just obviously a huge question mark with how much are the Colts going to throw and how accurate is Anthony Richardson going to be. I feel pretty confident that Michael Pittman will lead that team in targets and receiving yards, but how many targets will there be to go around? It could be a little bit of an Atlanta Falcons situation from last year where the Colts are just so run heavy that even though Michael Pittman gets a 25-30% target share like Kyle Pitts and Drake London were doing last year, they're finishing with like 50 yards and like 3 targets because the team barely throws the ball. So yeah, I think the ceiling's higher for Pittman. I think I actually just talked myself out of my original answer. I lean Sky Moore against the Lions tonight. The Lions defense is not good. I do like that move. Guys, really quick shout out in the best way you could possibly support me and what I'm doing in the entire brand. Check out the WalterPicks app. It is the best app you can use for fantasy football advice, and it is completely free. Let me change the view here on the YouTube live. And you can see some of the receivers here. I think I had it around Sky Moore. Yeah, you can see some of the receivers here. We actually have Sky Moore one spot ahead of Michael Pittman here in these projections. We have Sky Moore ahead of DJ Moore. That's a little bit surprising to see. I don't know if I agree with that off the cuff, but I don't hate it either. He's right next to Gabe Davis in the rankings. Check out the WalterPicks app, guys. It's going to help you with your start set decisions and your trades, and it is completely free. And if you want to use any of the premium features, you also get a completely free 7-day trial. Okay, let's go back to this question. Sam, we trust. My friend needs help. Should he play Goff or Herbert? He thinks it's going to be a shootout today. Do not bench Justin Herbert for Jared Goff, because guess what? Justin Herbert's also in a projected shootout. He's playing the Miami Dolphins. Guys, the last time Justin Herbert played the Miami Dolphins, he went over 350 passing yards. He was around 350. This is a smash spot for Justin Herbert in week one. I think if I go to the QB rankings here, if I go back to this really quickly and we check out the QB rankings, let's see where Goff shakes out here first. But first of all, look where Justin Herbert is. He's QB4. Start Justin Herbert with a lot of confidence. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, I'm showing the rankings on the YouTube live where I can share my screen. Link to that is in the TikTok bio. We got Jared Goff down here right after Kirk Cousins. I maybe would start him over Kirk and Russ. But I think all these other guys I would probably start over Jared Goff. I think I agree with that. Geno Smith I like a lot this week too. The Rams defense is atrocious. Okay. That was a good Thursday night question. This is not a Thursday night question, but it is an interesting one. Jamal Williams, sounds like Kendre Miller, rookie for the Saints. He's not going to go. Alvin Kamara suspended. I think most people will have never heard of who the backup running back will be for the Saints. And we don't even know who will be yet. I actually was looking at their depth chart this morning. They have a 26-year-old converted wide receiver listed as their running back behind Jamal Williams. Now, Jamal Williams might not come off the field for the Saints. Maybe Taysom Hill get some run, but I still kind of feel better about Akers than I do about Jamal Williams. Pitts or Higbee rest of season? Max, we got to just flame. Do we got to flame Kyle Pitts in the very first live stream of the year, man? I want to be in on Kyle Pitts. I've wanted to be in on Kyle Pitts. When you look at the profile, and I'm going to get back to the Thursday night stuff in a second. I'm going off the cuff here a little bit. But when you look at the profile for Kyle Pitts, he's done things we've never seen other tight ends do. He gets 1,000 yards his rookie season. He had almost the best rookie season of all time for a tight end in terms of yards per game. The thing with Kyle Pitts is he's only scored 2 touchdowns in the last 2 years. That just doesn't seem like that's going to keep happening with the target share and the air yard share that he's getting, both top 5 among tight ends. I'm still going to go Kyle Pitts over Higbee rest of the season, but man, I mean, Kyle Pitts is down bad. At least you could get him at a reasonable cost in fantasy this year. All right, let's get back to the Thursday night questions. I'm about to give my favorite player prop of the night too, and talk through that a little bit, and then I'm going to give you the breakdown of the game and what I expect. Get back to some of those must starts, must benches, and fringe starts again too. So first though, let's get this question from the YouTube live Colin Daly. Hey Sam, should I start Dotson, Kadarius Toney, or Sky Moore in half PPR? Okay, appreciate you for saying the scoring settings. This is really helpful. If you're asking me a start sit question, guys, is your league PPR? Is it half PPR? Is it non-PPR? This will affect my answers because the scoring settings dictate how many points these guys score. So this is actually really useful information. This is also part of the reason why the WalterPicks app is a really good place to go for start sit decisions in fantasy football, because it will account for your custom scoring settings. Anyways, do not start Kadarius Toney. You can't start Kadarius Toney. Absolutely not. And I could see you talking yourself into Kadarius Toney now that Kelsey's ruled out. Kadarius Toney's arguably the most talented receiving weapon the Chiefs have. But what do we know about Kadarius Toney? Let me actually pull it up and show on the YouTube live what we know about Kadarius Toney, because we have game logs in the WalterPicks app now that I absolutely love. I really like pulling up these game logs just to remind myself, like, what did these guys actually do last season? And when we look at Kadarius Toney, guys, look at the snap percentages for Kadarius Toney. Not a single game where Kadarius Toney played more than 45% of the offensive snaps. He got targeted a lot when he was on the field, but the floor is so low for a guy that we just know Kadarius Toney, he will not be out there more than half the snaps tonight. And that's not a guy I want to play in fantasy football. That is an extremely, extremely risky guy to play in fantasy. Could he score 2 touchdowns and maybe do something with, maybe the 5 targets he gets? Like best case scenario, 7 targets. He's only going to be out there half the snaps. He can't get that many targets. So yeah, you're really risking it. I think if you're starting Tony, I think Sky Moore is a much safer play. I expect Sky Moore to be out there 80% plus of the snaps tonight. His over under receiving yards is also much higher than Tony's. So I do like that a lot. I'm playing Sky Moore over Tony. Jahan Dotson, though, he was the other guy in that question. I'm starting Jahan Dotson over Sky Moore. And guys, I'm already capitulating on Jahan Dotson. He was in my do not draft list, and I'm regretting that a little bit after seeing how he performed in the preseason, after we saw that Terry McLaurin picked up an injury. He practiced fully today, though, so Scary Terry will be playing this week. I still think I like Jahan Dotson against the Cardinals more than Sky Moore tonight. That one is pretty close, but I'm pretty excited about Jahan Dotson. I think his ceiling is higher than Sky Moore's is tonight. Sky Moore, for me, a fringe start, not a must start. I would put Jahan Dotson just a little bit ahead of Sky Moore, but it absolutely is close. In a full PPR league, I think I like Jahan Dotson maybe even a little bit more. Non-PPR, maybe it's a little bit closer, but yeah, overall, I'm going Jahan Dotson over Sky Moore. Again, Travis Kelce ruled out. That's obviously the big news. Why not Noah Gray? Well, Noah Gray, guys, he just isn't Travis Kelce. I don't think you should be doing this one-to-one with Noah Gray to Travis Kelce. Noah Gray was a 5th-round pick in 2021. He is not as athletic as Travis Kelce. He's not as good of a route runner as Travis Kelce. He's not going to play as much as Travis Kelce. He's not going to get as many targets as Travis Kelce was going to have, and he's for sure is not going to have the touchdown ceiling that Travis Kelce had. Travis Kelce has not missed games in his career, so we haven't really seen what Noah Gray can do, in his full-time role. But yeah, I'm not buying it, and I just think you can get better options out there. Not that Noah Gray can't succeed. He absolutely can succeed. He's going to play more tonight, but I like Luke Musgrave way more than him. I like Sam Laporta on the other side of the ball more than him. I have at least one of those guys is available in over 90% of fantasy leagues right there. And I'm sure there's going to be more tight ends I see in the questions. Trey McBride. I don't know if I would go Trey McBride. I guess Zach Ertz might not play, so that's actually not the worst. But yeah, I don't want any piece of the Cardinals offense really in week one. Sky Moore or Swift PPR. Yeah, I'm going Sky Moore over Swift. I'm pretty out on DeAndre Swift. I think he's going to be really tough to predict on a week-to-week basis. I do not start tight ends over wide receivers. So if you're going to ask me Luke Musgrave versus Brandon Cooks, I'm going Brandon Cooks 1,000% of the time. That one's not close. Okay. Amari Cooper or David Montgomery? So yeah, I have David Montgomery as a must start tonight. I think you're going to be upset when David Montgomery's on your bench. Just bottom line. That being said, you got to pick one. You got to pick one or the other here, and Amari Cooper is definitely the better player to go with heading into week one. I think if it's a PPR league, if it's a half PPR league, now I'm probably leaning David Montgomery. If it's a non PPR league, I'm definitely leaning David Montgomery because Montgomery has a higher touchdown ceiling and floor than Amari Cooper has. And again, that's why the scoring settings are really good for me to know. Appreciate you guys tossing those in the start sit questions. Drake London or Sky Moore? I'm starting Drake London over Sky Moore for sure. I do not have Sky Moore as a must start. He's a fringe start for me, and I don't want to start Kadarius Toney. I really don't. I'm realizing I didn't put him in that list. That was a mistake on my end. I would put Kadarius Toney in the must bench column on the TikTok live. Kadarius Toney is a must bench. I think I put him in the must bench. I didn't actually. Let me put him in here on the YouTube live. Don't start Kadarius Toney. I'm not in on it. We just looked at the game logs on the YouTube live. He is not going to play more than half the snaps. You can't start him. Okay. Let me get to my thoughts on the game in general and why I'm so excited for it, why I think everyone should be really excited for it, and why I think everyone is really excited for it. Despite me only having 4 players on my must-start list tonight, Patrick Mahomes, who's the number 1 QB heading into week one, even without Travis Kelce. By the way, remember when people thought Patrick Mahomes was going to regress without Tyreek Hill? We're probably going to see something similar tonight without Travis Kelce. Amon-Ra is a must-start guy. You could argue he's the number 1 receiver heading into week one. I would probably put Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill ahead of him, but I think there's a real argument in this game environment for Amon-Ra being the number 1 receiver in week one. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, you got to start both those guys too. The Lions backfield led the league in running back fantasy points last year. They've one of the best offensive lines in the league. They're both going to be really involved in the passing game, and both have pretty good touchdown ceilings. My pick for the game, and I don't think the spread has moved from the Travis Kelce news, which came out, we knew Travis Kelce was at least questionable yesterday. I don't think that him being ruled out will move the line at all. I'm taking the Chiefs. This one feels like a little bit of a trap. Usually the Chiefs spreads are traps in general, but I don't think the Lions defense can stop Patrick Mahomes. I'm not sure if they will stop him, more than once or twice this entire game. Even without Kelce, This Lions defense is not equipped to stop the Chiefs offense. I think the Lions offense can do well against the Chiefs defense, but at least the Chiefs defense should get a few more stops than the Lions defense. This game should be extremely high scoring. It has the highest over under of the week by far. We might not have a single game next week that matches this over under. These are two of the highest powered offenses in the league. And the Lions defense is also extremely, extremely weak. Chiefs defense is nothing special either. Even the best defenses, guys, cannot stop the Kansas City Chiefs. Rewind to 6 months ago when all the talk in the Super Bowl was the Philadelphia Eagles. They have the best defensive line in football. How they will be able to slow down the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes will be under constant pressure. It did not matter. Their defenses don't matter against Patrick Mahomes. And you know what does matter, though? If the defense sucks, I think it's really going to show when you play against Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs have historically been extremely, extremely good in week one. They have the entire offseason to prep for this game. Andy Reid historically really good in week one. Mahomes really good in week one. I'm taking the Chiefs minus 4.5. I think it's going to be really high scoring. Wouldn't be shocked to see both teams over 30 points. But I think the Chiefs over 30 points is pretty much a mortal lock in this game, even without Travis Kelce. So yeah, I'm taking the Chiefs minus 4.5. My favorite player prop of the night. And I'll go back to the start sits momentarily. But my favorite player prop of the night, it is, you might have guessed it earlier, David Montgomery to score a touchdown tonight. You can find this in a bunch of different places. Most books will have this one. I do like him. If you can only find it for rushing touchdowns, I would lean towards the rushing side of things. If you have never used Sleeper before, guys, Sleeper's the best place for player props this season. That's where I'll be placing my props this season because I'm in Florida now. Sports betting is not legal here, so I got to use the pick'em platforms. Sleeper's my favorite, and we are doing a partnership with Sleeper this season. So if you use the code Walter, you will get a 100% deposit match on Sleeper if you're depositing for the first time. Let me pull this up here. 100% first deposit match on Sleeper. I'm taking David Montgomery over half a rushing touchdown, over half a touchdown total. And they also have a pick on sale on Sleeper where you're getting CMC at half a rushing yard over. If you've never been on there before, check it out. Use code Sleeper. Helps us out a ton. You can also, if you're on the YouTube live, right in the YouTube description, there's a link with our code in it. Use that. Really supports us a lot. And smash the David Montgomery rushing prop. Absolutely love that one tonight as well. That's my first player prop of the season on these live streams. I'll give a free player prop every single live stream. Last year, we hit these at a 70% clip. The year before that, we were at 68%. We've dominated these player props. These free player props have been dominant on these live streams. Good vibes for the first one of the season. And we're actually going with a one that's plus odds tonight, plus odds. So you're going to go to Sleeper. You're going to deposit for the first time. And then you're going to get whatever you deposit, you're going to double that instantly. And then you're also going to place a small wager on McCaffrey over half a rushing yard and Montgomery to score a touchdown. And then you double whatever you wager there too. I like it a lot. That's my first free prop pick of the season. All right, let's get back to some of these comments. Montgomery or Cam Akers, going Montgomery. Montgomery or Mostert, you're going David Montgomery. Start David Montgomery. Again, I just laid out all the reasons earlier in the live. I'll lay them out one more time. Jamal Williams scored 17 rushing touchdowns last season. David Montgomery is better than Jamal Williams, just objectively. David Montgomery has averaged more yards per carry than Jamal Williams behind a significantly worse offensive line with the Chicago Bears. Now David Montgomery steps into that role, and he has just such good touchdown ceiling. He could score 2 touchdowns any given week. I think the odds of him scoring a touchdown are better than the odds of him not scoring a touchdown. And there are so few running backs you can say that about in fantasy football, in the NFL. David Montgomery is one of those guys. I'm really excited about Jahmyr Gibbs too. And my David Montgomery love does not lead to Jahmyr Gibbs hate. I love both of them. In this backfield, both of them can succeed in fantasy. We saw it last year. The Lions led the NFL in running back points per game in fantasy. And in PPR leagues, I think they could even beat what they scored last year because they have 2 better running backs than they had last year. It's the same offensive line. It's a top 3 offensive line. Start David Montgomery tonight. McKinnon or Pittman? I'm starting Pittman over McKinnon either. Easy. Yeah, I'm sorry. I left Kadarius Toney out on the screenshot in the TikTok live. Don't start Kadarius Toney. Don't do it. I'm not doing it. Kadarius Toney did not have a single game last year, including the Super Bowl, including the playoffs, Kadarius Toney, 0 games playing over 45% of the snaps. That's not the type of guy I want to play in fantasy football. It's just not. Deontay Johnson or Sky, I would go Deontay Johnson, I think, over Sky Moore. Pacheco or Antonio Gibson. I'm going Antonio Gibson over Pacheco. I have Isaiah Pacheco as a fringe start tonight. I like Antonio Gibson. They're playing the Cardinals, man. The Cardinals are a bottom 3 team in the NFL. That's a perfect game environment for Gibson and Brian Robinson. I would play both those guys over Isaiah Pacheco. This isn't the worst game environment for Pacheco. Like, the Chiefs are favored. It should be a high-scoring game. Pacheco should lead this backfield in carries. But I know that I expect Jerick McKinnon and I expect Clyde Edwards-Helaire to get touches in this game. And I think that the Chiefs are going to spread the ball around to the point that I think Isaiah Pacheco's floor is pretty low. I think if Isaiah Pacheco doesn't score a touchdown, he's probably going under 10 fantasy points. I don't know if he's going to catch enough passes to get to 10 fantasy points without touchdowns. I think David Montgomery will catch more passes than Pacheco. Jahmyr Gibbs for sure will too. I think Jerick McKinnon will catch more passes than Pacheco. Clyde Edwards-Helaire might even catch more passes than Pacheco. And I'm not putting it past the Chiefs to have Clyde in there vulturing the rushing touchdown, or Jerick McKinnon in there vulturing the rushing or receiving touchdown over Isaiah Pacheco. Yes, I faded Pacheco pretty hard in fantasy for all those reasons. This is one of those games, though, because it's so high scoring that you can. Can we get top 10s? Yeah, Pierce, the Sunday morning lives, you're going to get top 15s this year. But on Thursdays, we're just locked into the Thursday start sits. And I'm going to go with these lists of just must start, fringe start, must bench. Because this is the thing. The top 15, it's going to change a lot from now until Sunday morning when we get all the news we need. And even on Sunday morning, things will tweak a little bit. But yeah, Sunday morning lives, I'll be live basically from when I wake up right till kickoff. You'll get my top 15 rankings for 100% completely free on these lives, and some more free player props and analysis, of course, as well. Tad, I'm getting to your comment next. Hey, Sam, pick 2, Dalvin Cook, James Cook, Jamal Williams, Michael Pittman, and Deion Jackson. Don't start Deion Jackson, guys. Don't do it. Don't start a special teams running back. I'm not doing that. Michael Pittman, I like the most out of this list. And I think James Cook, I like a little bit more than Jamal. I'm a little bit nervous about the Bills' offense overall against the Jets. That might be a mistake, though. I think the Bills' offense is one of these offenses that maybe the defense actually doesn't matter that much. And I'm excited about James Cook this season. Jamal Williams, meanwhile, he could get the most touches out of all of these players. There's no one else in the backfield. Maybe Taysom Hill ends up getting some reps, though. And I don't know. I don't feel great about the Saints offense overall. This is not a Thursday night question, though, so I'm going to move on. But yeah, I would probably go Michael Pittman, James Cook. Tad, we got a question here from Tad. Before I get to this question from Tad, I'm not going to be able to get to everyone's start sit questions. There's too many of them. But I did build an app that can answer all of your start sit questions instantly and custom to your league settings. That's the other thing, Tad. You should know better than this. I'll let you slide for this first one. But I know you've been in these lives before. I appreciate seeing you back. I need to know the scoring settings. Let me know the scoring settings. Is it PPR, half PPR, or non-PPR in these start sit questions? And that's another reason why the WalterPicks app is OP for these start sit decisions. It's going to count for your custom league settings, especially if you sync your league. Okay, let's get to Tad's question here. Raheem Mostert, DJ Moore, Dalvin Cook, Deion Jackson. Oh my God, the D Jackson, D Johnson, D Cook, D Moore. Right? I mean, there's a lot of D's going on here. I'm not starting Deion Jackson. I'm not doing that. He's not going to get. He honestly, I don't even think he's worth a roster slot. I'm pretty down on Deion Jackson. I think Evan Hull is a better receiving back than Deion Jackson. And I think Zach Moss is going to be the preferred running back on the ground than Deion Jackson. Maybe Deion Jackson beats out Evan Hull for the receiving back. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I just also don't think Anthony Richardson's going to throw to the running back. I want nothing to do with Deion Jackson. So I'd probably go Deontay Johnson and DJ Moore here. With the Jets backfield, like I think David Montgomery and or Breece Hall, either of them could have a big week one. But I would prefer to see how that backfield shapes out in my fantasy lineups before starting them. If I have good options like DJ Moore and Deontay Johnson and even Raheem Mostert, like I'd rather just sit Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook in week one, see how the backfield looks, and then move forward from there. I think both guys have pretty good upside. They both can catch a lot of passes, but I'm pretty nervous overall about I just don't have a good feel about who's going to lead that backfield in touches in week one. It probably will be Dalvin, but I still think Breece is better than Dalvin. So it's hard for me to get myself around on Dalvin Cook. Welcome back, Deontay Johnson or Kadarius Toney. Yeah, we're benching Kadarius Toney tonight, guys. Bench Kadarius Toney tonight. You got to do it. He has too low of a floor. His floor is close to 0 points, maybe even 0 points. He's probably going to get a couple of touches, like he's active. He wasn't on the injury report technically, but we also didn't see a single game last year where he went over 45% of the snaps. You can't expect that from him tonight after he missed all of preseason and is just coming back from surgery. So I mean, wouldn't be shocking, guys, if we see a similar role for Kadarius Toney that we saw in the Super Bowl, where he had a huge punt return in that game. He still had an impact. I even think he scored in that game, but he was out there for like, what, 20% of the snaps, 15% of the snaps? Like they just aren't going to put him out there a lot of the snaps, especially in week one, coming off surgery, whole season ahead of him. They're going to try to keep Kadarius Toney fresh. They're going to play him around 25% of the snaps. They're going to use him when he's out there, but he's not going to be out there enough to trust in your fantasy lineups. Do not start Kadarius Toney. Must start Mahomes, but bench all of his targets. Yeah, that's why this game is weird. That's why this is weird from a fantasy perspective. I'm glad that I saw that comment because I had that same thought when I was making these lists. But which of the receivers do you trust? Like one of the Chiefs receivers will probably end up doing well outside of Sky Moore. I think Sky Moore is definitely the safest option. Like one of them, maybe it's Noah Gray, maybe it's Scanlon, maybe it's Richie James, maybe it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire, maybe it's Justin Ross, maybe it is the other rookie wide receiver that I'm blanking on right now. Maybe it is even. Let me pull up the depth chart here. There's like basically every single. It was Rashee Rice. Sorry, I blanked on Rashee Rice. Maybe it's Justin Ross. Maybe it's Rashee Rice. Maybe it's Justin Watson, Kadarius Toney, Marcus Valdes-Scantling, Richie James, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jerick McKinnon, Isaiah Pacheco. Any of these guys, like it could be them. But also almost all of these guys could score close to 0 points outside of Sky Moore and Isaiah Pacheco. They're going to spread the ball around a lot. I said it at the front part of this live. I wouldn't be shocked to see 10 Chiefs players catch the ball tonight. So I think they're going to spread it around so much that I don't feel confident at all in any of these receivers outside of Sky Moore. And sure, I'll probably be wrong about at least one of them, but I just think good luck guessing one of them. Good luck guessing which one. PPR, why Goff over Richardson? The app said Richardson. Your TikTok comment said Goff. So I'm torn. Yeah, I would lean Goff over Richardson. I would. And I actually think the app might say, let's pull this up here, because I actually think we adjusted the Anthony Richardson projection in the WalterPicks app recently. And yeah, we do have Jared Goff 2 spots ahead of Anthony Richardson now. So yeah, I would go Jared Goff over Richardson. Let me do this comparison here on the YouTube live. It's close. And certainly the rushing upside of Anthony Richardson is exciting. I'm excited for Anthony Richardson week one. I'm not sure there's a game I'm more excited for, maybe outside of tonight's game, that in week one than the Jaguars versus the Colts. And I feel like I'm probably on a little bit of an island there, but I'm so pumped to see Calvin Ridley in the Jaguars offense. And I'm really, really excited to see Anthony Richardson against the Jaguars. A pretty good matchup. Jaguars weren't so great against quarterbacks last year. And it's a pretty good game environment for them. They're 5-point underdogs. They should be playing from behind. But yeah, Goff is absolutely safer than Anthony Richardson, a rookie quarterback in a pretty suspect offense overall with not so many weapons without Jonathan Taylor. Okay. What is this thumbnail? Love it. What's going on, Brian? Yeah, we're scraping the thumbnails along here. Appreciate you joining the live. We're going to have some funny thumbnails, though, throughout the season for sure. Javonte Williams or Jahmyr Gibbs in a half PPR league. Don't bench Jahmyr Gibbs in a game that has the highest over-under of the week, in a game where he's probably the second best Lions receiver. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown, then maybe it's Sam Laporta. I would probably argue Jahmyr Gibbs is the second best receiver, though, ahead of rookie tight end Sam Laporta. I'm really interested to see how he does tonight, though. Definitely that's one of the things to monitor pretty closely tonight from a fantasy football perspective, is how much is Sam Laporta out there? Because the thing with rookie tight ends, like historically speaking, guys, rookie tight ends are awful in fantasy football. Almost never succeed. Like extremely rare. The best rookie tight end season we've seen in recent history was Kyle Pitts' rookie season. And for most fantasy managers, that was a brutal season because he got drafted pretty high and he only scored 1 touchdown, but he had that most yards per game from a rookie tight end in quite some time. You have to go back to the year 2000 to find a rookie tight end that performed as good as Kyle Pitts did. But usually the reason that the rookie tight ends struggle is they just aren't on the field that much in comparison to the more veteran tight ends in the NFL. Usually it's really hard for rookie tight ends to see a really high snap percentage. And when they're not in the field, they're not scoring fantasy points, and that leads to bad fantasy seasons. But this year, it might be a little bit different because this year, there's a narrative out there that I think is quite possible that this is maybe the best rookie tight end class that we have seen in the NFL in quite some time, maybe ever. There are a list of rookie tight ends that should see significant roles as soon as week one. And Sam Laporta is on that list. He was reportedly by far the best tight end in camp. I'm really interested to see how much he plays and how involved he is tonight. He's going to be the first test of this rookie tight end theory being broken this year. I like him as a replacement for Travis Kelce if you need one. But the other rookie tight end I like even more than Sam Laporta is Luke Musgrave for the Green Bay Packers. Christian Watson out with a hamstring injury. He's seriously questionable for week one. Romeo Doubs was practiced on a limited basis. I think he's on the right side of questionable, but he is also truly questionable. Luke Musgrave could be the leading receiver for the Packers in week one. I expect him to play a lot too. But these aren't even the only two rookie tight ends to be excited about. There's also Michael Mayer for the Raiders, and there's a few others that are even slipping my mind currently. But yeah, there's a lot of exciting rookie tight ends in the NFL this season. I'm excited to see how that shapes out. Okay, let's get back to some of the comments. Again, just to run through it really quick. The must-start players tonight. Patrick Mahomes, obviously. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. I want David Montgomery in my starting lineup badly. I know there's going to be some spots you just can't do it. Like we had an Amari Cooper versus David Montgomery one. In a full PPR league, I kind of think you go Amari. Half PPR, though, I'm starting to lean David Montgomery there. Your scoring settings matter. Make sure you know your scoring settings. Running back like David Montgomery gets better as you score less points for receptions because touchdowns matter more and more in those formats, and that's what David Montgomery has a really good chance to do tonight. That's why my free player prop pick of the night is David Montgomery. Over half a touchdown. If you could only find half a rushing touchdown odds, I think that's also fine. All likelihood, his touchdown is going to come on the ground. He should be involved in the passing game too, but I like him to score a rushing touchdown a lot tonight. You're getting plus odds for this one. Jamal Williams averaged a touchdown per game last year. David Montgomery is better than Jamal Williams. This game is projected to be extremely high scoring, and this is the best offensive line David Montgomery's played behind in his career. I'm really excited to see how he looks in this offense tonight. I'm also excited about Jahmyr Gibbs in his receiving role, but from a touchdown perspective, I think David Montgomery's got the better bet to score more touchdowns on the ground this year. A reminder again that if you have never used Sleeper for their pick'em game, go deposit on Sleeper, use code Walter. You get a 100% first deposit batch on Sleeper. You can find this prop, David Montgomery over half a rushing touchdown. It's actually better odds on Sleeper than it is at most sports books. Use code Walter, help us both out, and let's cash in the David Montgomery prop. And they also have a free prop up right now on Sleeper, which is Christian McCaffrey over half a rushing yard. So take the half a rushing yard with McCaffrey. That already won. Then take David Montgomery over half a rushing touchdown with the plus odds, and we're going to cash tonight on Sleeper. I appreciate you guys using code Walter when you sign up. If you were watching live on the YouTube channel too, you can see the link in the YouTube description. If you're watching live on TikTok, by the way, shout out to all the TikTok people. Really appreciate all of your support. The YouTube live is a little bit better reviewing experience. I can pull your comment up on the screen and I can share my computer screen a little bit more easily. Link to the YouTube live is right in the TikTok bio. What are your thoughts on Gibbs tonight? I'm irrationally excited to see Jahmyr Gibbs. I know I'm not alone in that, but Jahmyr Gibbs is one of the most exciting running back prospects in recent memory. Let me explain a little bit about why that is. Let me pull up some of the numbers here. I already referenced a few of them, but first of all, the speed. This is where the Chris Johnson comp comes from. And a lot of these comps are trash. Like during draft season, so many of the comps for players, just complete trash. Like not every player can be, Hall of Famer X. Not every quarterback can be Josh Allen. Not every running back can be Marshawn Lynch. But Jahmyr Gibbs, my comp for him, and I think other people tossed this comp around too, was Chris Johnson, one of the fastest running backs in NFL history. And this is because Jahmyr Gibbs ran a 4.36 40-yard dash that ranks in the 99th percentile. This is one of the fastest human beings on planet Earth. This is one of the fastest running backs we've seen in the NFL. And he also happens to be an extremely talented receiving back. He is a good wide receiver, 93rd percentile college target share. He got 15% of Alabama's targets. He's out there with future round one wide receivers, and he's getting 15%, 93rd percentile of the targets Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be really, really involved in the passing game. He's going to be one of the better receiving backs in the NFL out of the gates. In the WalterPicks app, we are projecting Jahmyr Gibbs for the third most targets at the running back position in the NFL in his rookie season. I mean, it doesn't get much more exciting than that. I'm really intrigued to see what the target share looks like in this game. According to Dan Campbell, they're going to ease Jahmyr Gibbs in out of the gates. I'm not buying that really at all. Like, I do think the backfield will be split pretty evenly for most of the season. Maybe they ramp Jahmyr Gibbs' workload up a little bit over the course of the season, but I expect him to see minimum 12 touches tonight. I think it'll probably be closer to 15 to 20 touches. And I think a lot of those are going to be targets, really high value touches. But yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs, bottom line, he is a good receiving back. So amazing to have in PPR leagues. He's running behind a top 3 offensive line in the NFL, and he has 99th percentile speed. This guy can take it to the house on any given touch. These are the types of running backs you want in fantasy football. I'm really excited for him. And I'm pretty equally excited for David Montgomery. I'm not expecting like the explosion type plays from Montgomery, but I really, really like that touchdown ceiling for David Montgomery. Okay. I just forced my friend to download the WalterPicks app, cough, cough, which is the best app to answer all of your fantasy questions. Yarshma, man, shout out to you, man. I appreciate seeing you in the live. Seeing so many of you back for the second, even third fantasy season. Really, guys, it warms my heart. I'm so blessed to still be doing this. This is my favorite thing to do. These live streams, helping you guys all out with your fantasy decisions, giving my analysis on the games. I'm just blessed that I can call this my job, and all of you are part of that, so I appreciate that. And yeah, the number one way you can support me is by checking out the WalterPicks app. It's so many big improvements this year, just like we do every single year. We're continuing to invest in the app, making it the best fantasy insights app on the market. We hit number 3 in the sports app rankings this draft season. We were as high as number 3. It went ESPN Fantasy, Sleeper, WalterPicks. That was a really cool moment. We were in the top 10 almost all draft season. I think we're still in the top 25 in the App Store. If you haven't checked out the WalterPicks app yet, I do not know what you were waiting for. You are at a disadvantage. Definitely check it out. There is an insane amount of free features, even if you don't want to pay the $5 a month for the premium features. And you get a 7-day free trial with those too. So it's a no-brainer to at least test it out. All right, Kirk Cousins or Jared Goff. I have Hawkinson. And DJ Moore or Terry PPR. Zach, first of all, thank you for telling me the scoring settings. This is very, very useful. I appreciate you letting me know the scoring settings. I would probably go DJ Moore over Terry McLaurin just because of the Terry injury. Like, I really want to see how much that limits him in week 1. If there was no injury, I really would like Terry McLaurin against the Cardinals. But yeah, I would lean DJ Moore over Scary Terry. And I don't think the fact that you have TJ Hawkinson should affect this quarterback decision at all. Like, generally, stacking is good and gives you a correlated situation where there's a higher ceiling and also a lower floor because the outcomes are correlated together. Kirk Cousins, if Hawkinson has a big game, Kirk Cousins had a big game. Not necessarily Kirk Cousins had a big game, Hawkinson had a big game, but you get the point. It's more likely that Hawkinson did if Kirk Cousins had a big game. But I'm still starting Jared Goff over Kirk Cousins. This is a game you want to start Goff. This is the highest projected scoring game of the week. I think that the Lions almost for sure have a higher projected team total than the Vikings. So yeah, I'm okay going Goff over Kirk. I think it's really close in the WalterPicks app, but I like getting Goff in situations like that. All right, we got a Thursday night football question here. Going to try to get to as many comments as I can, as always, on these lives, guys. We're going to be live for at least the next 30 minutes. We're getting close to kickoff. Let me actually, before I get to this question, super quick, I think we're getting right around that official injury report time. So I just want to refresh my feed here and check if we did get that. And we did. Okay, our first official inactive list of the season. Travis Kelce is out. We got that news a little bit of a while ago. That is the only notable name really on this list. That's the only thing to report that's already been reported. I'm still not starting Noah Gray. Stop asking the Noah Gray questions. I get the appeal. I get the thought process that led you to ask the Noah Gray question to yourself and on this live stream. But guys, Noah Gray is not Travis Kelce. Could Noah Gray have a big night? Sure, he could. But so could Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So could Richie James. So could Marcus Valdes-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, Justin Watson, Rashee Rice, Justin Ross, Jordy Fortson. I actually think Jordy Fortson's out, so he can't have a big game. But you get the point. There's so many weapons for the Chiefs that all of them have, somewhat of a ceiling, but they also, because there's so many of them, have a pretty low floor. The only guys that I wouldn't include on that low floor list, Sky Moore, his floor is actually pretty high. I think he's going to be out there almost every single snap. And I think Isaiah Pacheco has a reasonable floor as well. But other than that, I really don't want to start any of these Chiefs players. Like some of them can have big games, but also almost all of them could put up pretty close to duds. I'm pretty out on Noah Gray. PPR, Joe Mixon and Gibbs as my running backs. Chris Godwin and Amari Cooper as my wide receivers. Who should I flex? Brandon Cooks, Sky Moore, or Alexander Madison. If Sky, I'll put in my wide receiver slot. Well, first of all, I can tell you're a seasoned vet here. Thanks for letting me know the scoring settings. I appreciate you knowing, don't put guys on Thursday night in your flex. This is a trick as old as time, but it is worth repeating each season and each Thursday night too. So I appreciate you putting in this comment. Don't put Thursday night players in your flex slot. Even if you know what your starting lineup is going to be, you never know what's going to happen. All of a sudden, Christian Watson has a hamstring injury and he's not playing. And now you have to play a wide receiver on Sunday, when if you had put Sky Moore in your wide receiver slot, then you'd have the option on Sunday between running backs and receivers. You always want the option, even if you know what you're going to do. So good shout there. Don't start Thursday night players in your flex when you don't have to. Okay, getting to the question now, though, I'm starting Alexander Madison in PPR over both these guys. I think Brandon Cooks is intriguing. I think Sky Moore is a safer play than Brandon Cooks and has a similar ceiling to Brandon Cooks. But Madison, man, I think the floor and ceiling is there for him for sure. They are favored at home. The Vikings defense is trash. All their games are going to be high scoring. I've been pretty in on Alexander Madison this offseason. Alexander Madison was one of the more polarizing players in fantasy football this year. Half of people were fading Alexander Madison because he wasn't good. He just isn't good. I even saw some Mike Davis comparisons for Alexander Madison, and I think that was pretty egregious. It's been pretty clear all offseason that the Vikings view Alexander Madison as a very good player. They gave him a contract as if he was a very good player. They have kept him around for quite some time and developed him, and have seen him behind Dalvin Cook for quite some time. And I honestly don't think he's been that bad from an analytical perspective. He's been average. He's been okay. And you can be an average running back in the NFL and be very, very good in fantasy football when you're used like a workhorse. And I think Alexander Madison has legit 20 touch potential. So yeah, I'm starting Alexander Madison over Sky Moore. Again, I have Sky Moore as a fringe start. I would put Alexander Madison closer to the must start category. In PPR leagues, I like him even more because I think Madison will get a lot of targets. We saw Dalvin Cook be used a lot in the passing game historically. PPR, running back, Gibbs or Stevenson? Oh man, yeah, this one's actually pretty tough. I mean, my heart is instantly saying Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm actually going to pull up the WalterPicks app up on this one though, because I want to compare these two guys live on the stream because I'm interested about this one. We were just comparing Richardson and Goff earlier. I thought that was an interesting question. Now let's compare Jahmyr Gibbs, and he's RB8 in our PPR projections. Let's compare him to Ramondre Stevenson, who's RB10. So we have Gibbs ahead of Mondre. So my heart and Walter are aligning. So you got to go Jahmyr Gibbs. In PPR leagues, Chris, I don't think there's really going to be a week you're going to want to bench Jahmyr Gibbs. We just walked through it. He was a 93rd percentile receiving back in college. He has 99th percentile speed, and he's playing behind a top 3 offensive line in the NFL. And tonight, he's in the highest projected scoring game of the entire week. You got to start Jahmyr Gibbs. And Mondre is a really good running back to have on your team on the bench, because I think he's going to catch a lot of passes too. You want the receiving back on the Pats pepper. They're running backs with targets, but not as much as the Lions are going to do. So yeah, I'm in on Jahmyr Gibbs over Ramondre Stevenson. That was definitely a good Thursday night question. Again, I'll try to prioritize the Thursday night questions. I'm playing Michael Thomas over Pacheco. That's a really interesting one. I'd say Pacheco is for sure safer than Michael Thomas, but I'm in on MT, man. I've been an MT fan for a while. I always am in on exploiting people, overestimating their ability to predict injuries. That's why Michael Thomas was one of my most drafted best ball players. I actually didn't get him in any season-long leagues this year, surprisingly, but I have him in a ton, almost a fourth of my best ball team, so I'm for sure rooting for him. All right, Parker, David Montgomery or Khalil Herbert, full PPR for my flex. Yeah, it's David Montgomery. It's got to be David Montgomery. It has to be David Montgomery. David Montgomery has more touchdown potential than Khalil Herbert, and he has more receiving potential than Khalil Herbert. And this is a PPR league. The Lions throw the ball to the running backs just so much more. Maybe Khalil Herbert gets more snaps, but I'm not even so sure about that. We know Justin Fields is going to run a lot too. Guys, Justin Fields' week 1 rushing prop line is higher. At least it opened higher. Maybe it's right around the same now. But Justin Fields' rushing prop line opened higher than Christian McCaffrey's. Khalil Herbert's not the number one running back on the Bears. Justin Fields is. And Justin Fields also just doesn't throw to running backs that much. I know Khalil Herbert took a screen pass to the house in preseason, guys, but one thing I really do not care about is how well people play in the preseason. The only thing I care about in the preseason is which players are playing with the starters. Who is out there with the starting quarterback is literally the only thing that I care about in the preseason. I do not care if you had a big touchdown touchdown reception, DJ Moore. I don't care. I don't care, Khalil Herbert, that you had a good play in the preseason. I just don't. I don't think it means that much. I'm happy Khalil Herbert's the starting running back overall. Like, he definitely has some potential. But yeah, I'm in on Monty over Herbert in week 1. Jared Goff or Deshaun Watson. Yeah, I'm going Deshaun over Goff. Deshaun just has more rushing potential than Goff. I'm in on Deshaun over Goff. We got a Thursday Night Football question here in a PPR format. Again, appreciate here. It's more likely, guys. It's more likely I will answer your comment, especially if it's involving running backs or receivers. If you let me know, is the league PPR, half PPR, or non-PPR? Because I just know I can give you a more informed answer. It's helpful. It's helpful info. And I want you guys to know this too, because knowing your scoring settings is important. PPR, half PPR, or non-PPR? Point per reception, half point per reception, or no points per reception? There's another reason the WalterPicks app is the ultimate cheat code for start-sit decisions in fantasy, because it's custom to your league settings. This is one of the things that's so hard for content creators to do for fantasy football, is give analysis for everyone custom to their league settings. And that's where the WalterPicks app really thrives, because it's all custom to your league settings. Check out the WalterPicks app if you haven't already. Free on the iOS and Android app store. Link is in the TikTok bio or the YouTube description. This is a tough one, Amar. And this is one of these ones that, again, I want to start David Montgomery tonight. I have David Montgomery in my must-start list, but I lost the comment there. I hope I can find it. I feel like it was T. Higgins, Mike Williams, David Montgomery, and I believe it was a full PPR league. And I really want to start Mike Williams this week. I like him more than David Montgomery, and I think T. Higgins should be started over David Montgomery too. And T. Higgins versus Mike Williams is super close. I'm really, really in on Mike Williams. I think there's this perception of Mike Williams that he is a boom or bust receiver, because that's kind of historically what he's been. But there's all these reports this offseason that he's going to play more in the slot this year, and I think that could really reduce his bust percentage over the course of the season. I'm in on Mike in that Dolphins game. I think that game is going to be really high scoring. I would play Mike Williams over both those guys. Thursday Night Football, pick 2, Monty, Rachaad White, and Miles Sanders PPR. I already have Amon-Ra starting. Yeah, I'm fine benching Monty in this one too. I think I said Rachaad White over Monty earlier in the stream as well, but I don't think I'd play Miles Sanders over him. So yeah, I'm fine starting Monty and Amon-Ra in a really high scoring game. I got you, Amar. Appreciate you tuning in. Yeah, I'm playing Rachaad White and Monty over Miles Sanders. Even if you have Amon-Ra starting, I'm fine with that. Noah Gray or Laporta? No Noah, huh? Yeah, I'm not in on Noah Gray. I don't know if there's people out there pumping up the Noah Gray propaganda. And yes, Noah Gray, he's going to play much more than usual tonight. Noah Gray he's not terrible. He's definitely like an average tight end, maybe like a good backup tight end, maybe an average, slightly below average starting tight end. Like, he has some speed, and he's catching passes from Mahomes. I see how you could back into the Noah Gray thing, but to talk you out of Noah Gray tonight and into Sam Laporta or into Luke Musgrave, who I think have significantly higher ceilings than Noah Gray, let's talk about the floor for Noah Gray tonight. Because who is going to catch passes for the Chiefs tonight? It is going to be a lot of guys. I think there could be 10, maybe more than 10. Like, the over-under, I'd probably set it at 9.5. Number of players to catch a pass for the Chiefs tonight, I think I'd set the line at 9.5. I think Noah Gray will catch passes from the Chiefs tonight. Justin Ross will. Rashee Rice will. Sky Moore definitely will. I think Justin Watson will. Kadarius Toney, he probably will. Marcus Valdes-Scantling will. Richie James probably will. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire probably will. Jerick McKinnon probably will. We're at 10 now, and I haven't even mentioned Isaiah Pacheco, who maybe he won't catch a pass. Maybe he will. But to that degree, like, the floor is so low for almost all those pass catchers. Sky Moore is the only one with a reasonable floor. I think you're better off with Sam Laporta on the other side. Sam Laporta is probably the number 3 receiving option for the Lions, or number 2. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then it's probably Jahmyr Gibbs, and it's probably Sam Laporta. So yeah, I like Sam Laporta much more. And I think Luke Musgrave's still available in like so many leagues. I think he's going to be maybe the number 1 receiving option for the Packers in week 1. It sounds like Romeo Doubs is on the right side of questionable. Sounds like Christian Watson might be on the wrong side of questionable. Enter rookie tight end Luke Musgrave, who's been a staple of their offense all preseason. I'm starting them over Noah Gray. I would start Conklin over Noah Gray too. Laporta or Zay Flowers. Yeah, so let me get this one out there because don't start tight ends over receivers or over running backs, especially ones with clear roles. Start Zay Flowers over Laporta, 1,000% do that. Sky Moore, Brandon Cooks. That one is super close. And I would argue, like, are you feeling like you want to lock in the floor play or the ceiling play? Because to me, Brandon Cooks is the ceiling play against the Giants, and Sky Moore is the floor play tonight. And it's not like Sky Moore doesn't have a ceiling. He's on the Chiefs in the highest projected scoring game. So yeah, like in that context, I'm going Sky Moore over Brandon Cooks. I think the floor is better for Sky Moore. I think the ceiling's probably a little bit better for Brandon Cooks, but I don't think it's enough better to justify Cooks over Sky Moore. Madison or Monty is tough. I would play Madison over Monty. I think Madison will touch the ball more than Monty will in a game that also should be high scoring. I do really like Monty tonight, and yeah, I'm not starting Noah Gray just because I do not think Noah Gray has any floor. Like his floor is really close to 0 points. It's really close to 0 points. He could do well. He could. He's playing the tight end role for the Chiefs, but they're going to rotate. Again, I think the over-under for number of players for the Chiefs to catch a pass tonight is 9.5. And Noah Gray is just one of those 10 guys. So I think the floor is really low for pretty much everyone outside of Sky Moore and Isaiah Pacheco. With Kelsey out, should I start Freiermuth against the 49ers? Or look towards Laporta, Dulcich, Kincaid, or Jawan Johnson? In PPR, the WalterPicks app is leaning Dulcich. Yeah, the WalterPicks app has been in on Dulcich like pretty heavily this entire offseason because he had a really, really encouraging rookie season when you compare him to historical rookies. But this one is really tight. It's definitely really tight. I don't think I would start Laporta or Kincaid. I generally, if I don't need to, I'd prefer not to start rookie tight ends. Like I don't hate Laporta. I don't hate Kincaid. I think both of them have a reasonable ceiling. Kincaid's one of the rookie tight ends I was blanking on before. We're really good rookie tight end class overall. I think Muth or Jawan Johnson, honestly, I prefer over Dolch though in week 1. I would like to see really how that Dolch role ends up shaping out with what his preseason usage looked like. I think Muth is probably the safest play though. I would take Muth to lead all of these tight ends and targets. Yeah, I would lean Pat Freiermuth here. Sky Moore legacy game incoming. I would love nothing more than the Sky Moore legacy game. I've had Sky Moore in my one dynasty team for 2 years now. He's going to be forced into the starting lineup tonight because I also have Kelsey on that team. But yeah, Sky Moore is the safest Chiefs receiver tonight. This could be the coming out party realistically for Sky Moore. Sky Moore barely played last year. He barely played. Let me pull up the game logs for Sky Moore just to refresh our memory on the Sky Moore situation. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, come to the YouTube live. Link is right in the TikTok bio, and you will see on my screen the game logs for Sky Moore. I can just do a little bit more on the YouTube live. It's right in the TikTok bio. I'm telling you, it's just a little bit better of a viewing experience. Anyways, Sky Moore barely played last year, guys. Look at this. The route percentages for Sky Moore. Let me move this other side of the screen so you guys can see it a little bit better. He didn't have a single game over half the snaps. Sky Moore 0 games over half the snaps last year. Sky Moore 0 games over 40% of the routes last year. By the way, these game logs in the WalterPicks app, man, this season, these are going to be game changing. I love that I can just quickly pull up the route percentages and the snap percentages. The route percentage, really the target shares too. I want to try to get air yard share in here too at some point, but even just the air yard numbers are useful. But guys, Sky Moore, like I expect him to play 80% plus of the snaps tonight. I mean, this is going to be a role that we really have not seen Sky Moore in before. That's why I think he's the safest floor of all of these guys. And the core change from last year, Juju is not in the picture anymore. Obviously, Kelsey's out tonight too, which even more pushes the Sky Moore breakout legacy game incoming. But yeah, I'm excited for Sky Moore to see this increased role. He's a really young, talented player with the ball in his hand. I don't think he's going to play like much of a deep role, but he can play that Juju role in the middle of the field. And I think he is exciting with the ball in his hands. So yeah, I'm excited to see Sky Moore tonight for sure. Looking forward to that. And I think he's a fringe start. I'm not putting Sky Moore, like, don't force Sky Moore into your lineup. Could a legacy game be incoming? For sure, it's possible. That's why he's a fringe start. But I think his floor and ceiling justify starts in a lot of spots. Like I did just say Sky Moore over Brandon Cooks, for example. But like that's the type of decision I think, yeah, that makes sense to start Sky Moore. But Sky Moore versus Alexander Madison, nope, I'm still starting Alexander Madison. Sky Moore versus Michael Pittman Jr., that one's pretty close, actually. Maybe I would go Sky Moore there. Sky Moore versus a guy, let me see if I can find one in the comments. Drake London? No, I'm not starting Sky Moore over Drake London. I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. Tony or Scantling? See, yeah, both those guys are on my must bench list. I apologize to everyone on the TikTok live. I forgot Kadarius Toney on the list that's showing on the TikTok live, but he would have been on the must bench list. He's on the must bench list on the YouTube live. Don't start Toney, but so is Marcus Valdes-Scantling, and yeah, between the two of those guys, God, I would probably start Scantling over Toney. Like Toney's a more exciting player than Scantling, but I think Scantling's going to play more. We were just looking at those game logs too. Kadarius Toney is not going to play more than half the snaps. Maybe not an entire game this season. So yeah, I'm not starting Kadarius Toney. JSN versus Sky Moore is a really, really interesting one because I haven't made that much content about Jackson Smith-Njigba really since the draft. But guys, I mean, I couldn't be more in on Jackson Smith-Njigba. I think he's going to be a really, really talented wide receiver in the NFL, like extremely talented. I think he was the number one wide receiver in this draft class. He dominated at the college level. He was more talented. He had a more efficient season than Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson on the same team as those guys at a younger age. So yeah, I'm super excited about Jackson Smith-Njigba. But week one, he has a great matchup. He is coming off like this wrist injury, though. How much is he going to play? I would argue, again, a similar story as I was saying with Brandon Cooks. Sky Moore's floor is safer than Jackson Smith-Njigba's. Njigba's ceiling, I would say, is pretty significantly higher than Sky Moore's. Like Njigba could score 30 points. Like that is a true ceiling for him. But we also just don't know his role. His floor is really unknown. So I'm okay going Sky if you want to play it safe. And it's not like Sky Moore also doesn't have a ceiling. I just don't think it's quite as high. So I'm okay going Sky Moore or JSN, but I'm definitely more excited about JSN like over the course of the season than I am Sky Moore. I'm not playing Jaden Reed over JSN. We got to wait to see what happens with Dobbs. It sounds like Christian Watson's on the wrong side of questionable right now, but definitely close. Why bench Noah Gray? Because Noah Gray is just a guy. He's just a guy. Just like pretty much all of the receivers for the Chiefs outside of Sky Moore and like Isaiah Pacheco too, other than those two guys, I don't think there's must-start players other than Mahomes on the Chiefs. I really don't. I think Sky Moore and Isaiah Pacheco, I think those guys are just fringe starts. I would put Jerick McKinnon as a fringe start too. I think he will be involved in the passing game. And sure, Noah Gray, like, is there potential there? Yeah, at least there's some potential. And you can't say that about like most tight ends. So like at least there's something there with Noah Gray. But I think there's tight ends with similar, even better potential with also higher floors on your waiver wire that I would start over Noah Gray. Guys like Luke Musgrave. Even guys like Sam Laporta in the game tonight. Guys like Tyler Higbee. I saw Juwan Johnson. He's on the waiver wire in a lot of leagues. I like him more than Noah Gray. Noah Gray is a backup tight end guy. He's a backup tight end. So if he's a good backup tight end, he's like an average, maybe slightly below average starting tight end in the NFL. He's playing with Mahomes in a high-scoring game. That's great. But there could be 10 Chiefs players that catch passes for the Chiefs tonight. I'm out on Noah Gray. Here we are, guys. Week one, and we're debating Noah Gray in the starting lineups. I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. That's me. You can do what you want with your fantasy teams, of course. Make your own decisions always in fantasy. I'm just here to give you advice. But yeah, I'm not starting Noah Gray. Laporta or Higbee, it's Higbee by a mile. Tyler Higbee could get 10 plus targets this week. Tyler Higbee could lead all tight ends in targets this week. Wouldn't be that shocking. Let me pull up the game logs quickly for Tyler Higbee before I want to get my thoughts on this game one more time. Run through the must starts, fringe starts, must bench. Kadarius Toney is on the must bench list, by the way, if you're watching live on TikTok. I left him out. He is on the must bench list. But yeah, let me pull up the Tyler Higbee game logs. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, come to the YouTube live. Link is right in the TikTok bio. Get better viewing experience. I can pull things up to the screen. Your comments more likely to be answered and be pulled up to the screen too, because there's just less comments on YouTube. So come to the YouTube live. Links right in the TikTok bio. Guys, look at these games for Tyler Higbee. A lot of green here. Look, he had 1, 2, 3, 4 games last year with at least 10 targets. That's got to be top 3 or 4 among tight ends in the NFL. And then week 1 now, there's no Cooper Kupp. I mean, these were games with Cooper Kupp last year. For these games, so 5 games he had with at least 10 targets, or 5 games with at least 9 targets. 7 games with at least 8. Like he's going to have one of the higher target totals among tight ends in week 1. Seahawks were also pretty bad against tight ends last year, so yeah, I'm pretty in on Higbee week 1. I would definitely play him over Laporta and over Noah Gray. Sky Moore or Miles Sanders flex PPR. Definitely a close one here. PPR does make me lean Sky Moore just a little bit more. I'm pretty in on Miles Sanders. Like I took him a lot early in this offseason, and he's probably started to decline, like to the point where I felt okay about him. I do think he'll catch more passes with the Panthers. I'm generally kind of nervous about the Panthers overall, though. now that I'm thinking about the Panthers out loud, Adam Thielen missed practice today. DJ Chark missed practice today. Jonathan Mingo might be the number one receiving option for the Panthers in week one. It's going to be him and Terrace Marshall. Maybe that raises the target total for Miles Sanders a bit. This one's super close, and I think both these guys have honestly similar floors and ceilings, but I do really like Sky Moore tonight. So I'm going to answer this as Sky Moore, but Hector, I don't think you can really go wrong either way here. They're super similar options. Sky Moore or Deontay Johnson in PPR? Yeah, I'm going Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson has been top 6 in the NFL in targets for 3 straight years. So yeah, I'm going Deontay Johnson over Sky Moore. James Cook or Keenan Allen flex. Sorry, Caleb, this is not a Thursday night question, but I would go Keenan. Do I start Gibbs or Stevenson? Yeah, I got this one earlier too. I thought this was a super, super close one. And we checked it in the WalterPicks app. It is super close, and it's Gibbs. In PPR formats, again, you didn't say the format here. If it's point per reception, you got to start Jahmyr Gibbs. Almost every week in PPR. Sam, Thursday Night Football question. Don't start Kadarius Toney, guys. I left him off the list accidentally on the TikTok live, but Kadarius Toney is an exciting player. I like watching Kadarius Toney. I think he is Percy Harvin 2.0, if you guys remember Percy Harvin. And I mean that in a good and a bad way. Because when the ball was in Percy Harvin's hands, just like when the ball is in Kadarius Toney's hands, good things happen. I mean, he's one of the shiftiest players in the NFL. Really one of the shiftiest players I've seen play ever. Like, that is how good Kadarius Toney is. But the problem for Kadarius Toney, just like the problem for Percy Harvin was, he is one of the most injury-prone players in the NFL. And I really don't view very many players in the NFL as injury-prone. I think being able to predict injuries is widely overblown. But guys, there's a reason Kadarius Toney didn't play ever more than 45% of the snaps for the Chiefs last year. It's because they want to preserve him for when it counts in the playoffs, down the stretch, in the Super Bowl, when he scored a touchdown and had a huge punt return. Because again, the good things happen when the ball is in Kadarius Toney's hands. So there is almost no chance in week one of a long season, coming off surgery where he missed the entire preseason, that Kadarius Toney plays more than 45% of the snaps for the first time with the Chiefs in this game. I don't like playing players in fantasy football that are going to be out there less than half the snaps. Have fun rooting for Kadarius Toney on your fantasy team when he's literally not even out there more than half the time. He's going to get the ball a decent amount when he is out there for those other 40 to 25% of the snaps that he's going to play. I think I wouldn't be shocked if it's 25% of the snaps that Kadarius Toney plays. So yeah, you really need a touchdown from him for him to get to 10 points in fantasy. I'm out. I'm fully out on Kadarius Toney this fantasy season. I'm going to be telling you to bench him likely every week until we see a role for Toney where he gets over 50% of the snaps, which I'm really not sure we're going to see for quite some time. I'm going to be out. Full point PPR, Monty or Sutton? Yeah, so I don't know if Judy's playing yet or not. That makes this one a really interesting one, because if Judy's not playing, I mean, Sutton all of a sudden is a pretty high floor, high ceiling play, in my opinion, because I think he's got decent touchdown upside, and you just lock in a decent target share for Sutton without Judy. And I still think there's potential there with Judy. But I'm still going to go Montgomery over Sutton. I think the floor is higher for Montgomery. I really like him to score a touchdown tonight. That is actually the free player prop pick of the night. Starting out the season strong here with a plus odds play. Pretty rare for me for the free player props, because I generally track the accuracy here with percentages. But Dave Montgomery over half a touchdown tonight. Lock it in. My favorite prop pick of the day. And guys, if you've never played on Sleeper, they just launched a prop pick game recently, and we are partnering with Sleeper this year. So if you use the code Walter when you sign up, you will get a 100% deposit match. And there's a free Christian McCaffrey prop up on Sleeper right now that you can get for this week over half a rushing yard. Half a rushing yard for Christian McCaffrey. Match that with David Montgomery over half a rushing touchdown. Plus you will get, so if you deposit $50, you'll get $100. Your deposit will be matched if you're depositing for the first time. Cash on Montgomery, rushing TD, and Christian McCaffrey over half a rushing yard. And we all win. Do appreciate you using code Walter when you sign up. And if you're watching live on YouTube, use the link in the YouTube description when you sign up. Okay. I'm taking the Chiefs in the game, -4.5. I don't feel great about taking this against the spread. I generally don't actually bet on spreads because they're one of the hardest markets in all of sports, all of betting. These are super efficient markets. I really don't risk much on spread. I much prefer player props. I much prefer daily fantasy. And I don't have a DraftKings lineup tonight to share. I will have one on Sunday. I'm playing much more of the Sleeper daily draft game this year, which I really, really like. I actually did a live stream earlier. If you're going to play that game and test it out when you deposit on Sleeper, which I highly encourage. The daily draft game is really, it's the best DFS game out there in my opinion. You can watch that live stream. I also got a YouTube video coming soon for strategy on that. Anyways, I'm taking the Chiefs. I will track my accuracy against the spread because I'll take every game against the spread on these lives. I'm taking the Chiefs -4.5 tonight. Feels like a trap here, but I just really don't think the Lions defense can stop the Chiefs. How we just watched in the Super Bowl, and I know Kelsey's not going to be out there tonight. There's not a ton of weapons for Mahomes. I don't really think that is going to impact things like that much. I really don't. For the Chiefs offense, they have enough weapons around the best quarterback in the league that I don't think a bottom 10 defense in the NFL is going to be able to stop them. The number 2 defense, maybe even number 1 defense in the NFL, they could not stop them at all in the Super Bowl. Defenses don't matter against the Chiefs. What does matter, though, is if the defense sucks, it's really going to show when they play the Chiefs. So I'm taking the Chiefs. I just don't see their offense being slowed down tonight, even without Travis Kelce. I think the Lions offense will also do pretty well. I expect this game to be high scoring because the offensive line is really, really strong for the Lions. No Chris Jones for the Chiefs tonight. Chiefs defense is really nothing to get super excited about, but I think they can make more stops than the Lions defense overall. So that's why I'm taking the Chiefs -4.5. I'm playing David Montgomery over Javonte. Let me run through the must starts, fringe starts, must benches, get to a few more comments, and then we'll be out of here, guys. We have football in less than 1 hour. I can't wait. I can't wait. All right. The must starts. Start Patrick Mahomes, obviously. You got to start Amon-Ra. I think that's obvious too. I think you got to start Jahmyr Gibbs in every single PPR situation. That one feels a little less obvious. I've seen some Jahmyr Gibbs questions. Start Jahmyr Gibbs. Don't let that comment from Dan Campbell scare you away that they're easing him in. Start Jahmyr Gibbs, especially in PPR formats. Half PPR formats, you can start to consider it a little bit. Non-PPR formats, you could really consider other options if you're playing in a non-PPR league. And start David Montgomery also. And I'd say as you go down in the PPR formats, like half PPR, I like Montgomery even more. Non-PPR even more because I think he's the best bet to score the touchdowns. That's why the free prop pick tonight is David Montgomery over half a touchdown. All right, the fringe start. Sky Moore. I feel like he was actually closer to a must start after answering some of these start sits that he was in, but I'm not putting him in the must start list because I'm not starting him over really, really high end players. But I think the floor and ceiling is pretty solid for Sky Moore tonight. Potential legacy game coming from Sky Moore. Isaiah Pacheco. I'm not putting him in a must-start range, but yeah, he's a fringe start. He should lead the Chiefs in carries. I just think McKinnon and Clyde will mix into and potentially vulture some touchdowns. Jared Goff, there's lots of good quarterback options in week 1. You probably didn't draft Jared Goff as your QB1, but if you punted QB in your league or in a league with a lot of teams, you could do much worse than Jared Goff, who's in, again, the highest projected scoring game of the week. And then Sam Laporta. If you have Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta is a decent option. I like Luke Musgrave more. I like Juwan Johnson more. Both those guys are available in a lot of leagues, but Sam Laporta is going to be an exciting rookie tight end to watch tonight for the Lions. Okay, everyone else should be benched in this game. And there's going to be other players in this game that have some boom weeks. Someone from the Chiefs likely is going to have a boom week. Maybe we see Marvin Jones or Josh Reynolds have a couple big plays and maybe a touchdown. But I think the floor for everyone else that I haven't mentioned yet is really, really close to 0 points. So Travis Kelce, he's scoring 0 points. He's out. Make sure he's out of your lineup. Kadarius Toney has not played a single game over 45% of the snaps. Don't start Kadarius Toney. Don't start him. Noah Gray, he's just a guy. He's just a guy. He's a backup tight end. I'm not starting backup tight ends in week 1, even if they're playing with Patrick Mahomes, even if they're playing the Travis Kelce role. I'm not buying it. I think there's plenty of good options at tight end on the waiver wire. Luke Musgrave, Juwan Johnson being my favorite too. I also like Greg Dolch. He's on the waiver wire in almost every league also. Richie James, bench him. Marcus Valdes-Scantling, bench him. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Marvin Jones, Josh Reynolds, bench him. It's a little bit of a weird spot. Justin Ross, Rashee Rice, bench both those guys too. But it's a weird spot where, for sure you're starting Mahomes and the Chiefs should score a ton of points. And here I am saying bench like almost all their receivers and all their backup running backs. Like I'm going to be wrong about a few of those guys, but again, the floor is just so low for so many of those guys that I'm okay with it. Okay. Also, I forgot to call this out earlier. Weatherman Sam. I'll be bringing you the weather reports for the football games on these lives all season long, especially on the Sunday morning lives with all the games. No weather concerns tonight. That's it. That's the Weatherman Sam report for the game tonight. All right. We're going to get to a few more comments and then wrap up the stream. Yo, Sam, I had Kelce. Joseph, that's tough, but also it sounds like it's just going to be a week, so it's not that tough. You'll get through it. Should I start Laporta, Chig, Everett, or Johnson? Yes, Johnson versus Laporta is close. Let me pull up the WalterPicks tight end rankings super quick here to help with this one. I don't hate Laporta tonight at all. This should be a high-scoring game. And I think you could do much worse than Sam Laporta, but I do want to pull up the tight end rankings to help you out here. So Dolce, yeah, he's pretty high. Kincaid, Chig Okonkwo was the best tight end though of these guys you listed. I would go Chig. I don't hate that at all. I think the Titans are playing the Saints. Don't hate it. I think Chig has a pretty high ceiling. Sam Laporta is a little bit further down here, 10, tight end 22. Luke Musgrave, Juwan Johnson, both ahead of him as well. Yeah, so I think all these guys ahead of him, Gerald Everett too. Yeah, so I'm not starting Laporta over any of those guys. Again, I'm excited for Laporta, but generally too, I don't love starting rookie tight ends in week 1, especially. I would play DeAndre Hopkins over Sky Moore for sure. Who should I replace Cup with? Tutu Atwell, Valdez-Scantling, or Jonathan Mingo? It's Mingo. It's Mingo for sure. It's got to be Mingo. Thielen and DJ Chark were questionable for this week now. I don't think either of those guys practiced today. And already, even before DJ Chark and Adam Thielen were like really up in the air to play this week, I liked Jonathan Mingo the most out of all those receivers. Jonathan Mingo, I took in the last round of all of my fantasy drafts. I think his ceiling is pretty high, so I like him a lot. I am playing Everett over Laporta. All right, Thursday Night Football question. I have Chubb, Mixon, and Aaron Jones. Still start Monty. Yeah, so do not start him over Chubb. Absolutely not. And I wouldn't start him over Aaron Jones either. Absolutely not. And nope, you can't start him over Mixon either. Half APR, no. Don't do it. He's in my must-start column, but that I'm just trying to hit the most percentage of leagues in this league, in your situation. You just can't start David Montgomery. Still root for him, enjoy him on your bench, but it's going to be tough to watch him score a touchdown from your bench, but those other guys should score touchdowns too. Sky Moore or Khalil Herbert this week. It's Sky Moore over Khalil Herbert this week. Jerick McKinnon or Dalvin Cook in a PPR league. This one is close, man. This one's close. And I don't know what to think about the Jets backfield. I think there is a really wide range of outcomes in the Jets backfield. My current feel on the situation is that Dalvin Cook leads the backfield in touches, but Breece Hall is better than Dalvin Cook. And I just don't feel good about starting guys when I know there's a running back behind them that's better than them. Again, the volume is really what matters, though. So, yeah, I kind of want to say Dalvin Cook. I think Dalvin Cook over Jerick McKinnon. B-Rob, McKinnon, or Akers, full PPR. It's Akers. Then it's B-Rob. Then it's McKinnon. McKinnon has upside tonight. And I'm also, for the record, and I say this, humbly, wearing my Patriots N'Keal Harry. I'm wearing a N'Keal Harry jersey right now because I always do this in week 1. I bought this jersey the night N'Keal Harry was drafted. I wear it to remind myself and humble myself that I will be wrong all the time. And here I am. I'm sitting here, 6-7 months after I told everyone every single week of the fantasy playoffs last year to bench Jerick McKinnon. And Jerick McKinnon just produced every single one of those weeks. But I still think the logic holds in general. Like with Jerick McKinnon, his floor is super low. You need touchdowns from him. Obviously, he can get those in fantasy. But yeah, I think both those guys have a much safer floor than him. I'm playing Akers, then B-Rob, then McKinnon. I'm having a hard time sitting Tony tonight. I know it might be smart, but man, he could go. Yeah, this is the thing, though. And let's wrap on this, Joshua Gann. Let's wrap up this whole live on this note. Because could Kadarius Toney go? For sure. Yeah, he could go. He is maybe the best offensive weapon that the Chiefs have tonight. I think he is. I think he probably is the most talented offensive weapon that the Chiefs have tonight. Obviously after Patrick Mahomes. But let's just look back at last season real quick. What happened last season with Kadarius Toney? First of all, he didn't play over 45% of the snaps in a single game, not one. So he's going to be out there less than half the snaps. So first of all, just ask yourself, do you want a guy in your starting lineup that you know is going to be on the field less than half the time? Second, he had one game over 12 points. I mean, maybe this week 18 game, he had 12. Like, he needs to score a touchdown. He needs to score a touchdown to get to 10 points in fantasy because he's not going to be on the field enough to get enough catches in PPR leagues. I don't know, man. I would say don't start him. He's going to be an exciting player with the ball in his hands, but if he didn't play over 45% of the snaps in a game last year and he missed the whole preseason from a surgery, from an injury he got in literally the first practice of the season, like there's just no way he plays over 45% of the snaps tonight. I just don't see it happening. I think he's a must bench personally, but yeah, you're right. Like I get the feeling with him because he does have big play upside. 3-year sub, just re-up my premium subscription. Mike, thank you so much, man. Seriously, like you are the reason, and all of our subscribers in the WalterPicks app are the reason I get to keep doing this every year. It's truly a dream come true. I'm so pumped for the season. I'm pumped for the game tonight. Guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. If I didn't get to your start sit question, go to the WalterPicks app. It is free to download. The premium subscription is only $5 a month if you want to sync your leagues. It is going to help you with all your start sit decisions, custom to your league settings. Also, last but not least, again, just a reminder, the free prop pick tonight is David Montgomery over half a rushing touchdown. And you can find this on Sleeper, where if you use code Walter on Sleeper this year, you'll get a 100% deposit match if it's your first deposit. So go to Sleeper, take the David Montgomery prop, and then also take this free Christian McCaffrey prop they're giving for half a rushing yard, David Montgomery over half a rushing touchdown, and cash. That's the plan for me tonight. That is what I did. That is what I think you should do as well. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Time is the most valuable thing we have. Thank you so much for spending some time with me tonight. Good luck, everyone. I'll be back live Sunday morning by the time you probably wake up. Have a good one, guys. Good luck, everybody.